everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Explore the Spectrum. I'm your host, Jeanetta Bryant, and I am happy to introduce to you John Westover. How are you doing today, John?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, I think that you're going to bring some interesting insights to the conversation. But first, tell us, you work in a related field, I would say. So you work with different companies and people regularly. Am I right in saying that? But you have a bit of a passion project.
Yes, yeah, definitely a passion project. I'm a professor, and so I do academic research, but I'm a consultant and work with organizations on these sorts of topics all the time.
And so what got you involved in wanting to work in this special needs community?
Honestly, it comes back to my own family background. I have a special needs older sister, so growing up in that environment and just seeing both the challenges and opportunities that brings to a family and the surrounding neighborhood and community is something that I've always been very keenly aware of. As I moved into my academic and professional training and working with organizations on how to best maximize and utilize the capabilities of their people, a subset of that work has always been focused on the neurodivergent and those who might not always have a fair shake in the process of trying to get good employment and how they're perceived and supported in the workplace.
So you tugged at my heartstrings. I have a daughter that has autism. I have a son that's neurotypical, and I have had a front row seat of seeing how uniquely wonderful and special siblings to special needs kids are. I even had someone tell me not long ago that they only hire special needs siblings because of their ability to think outside of the box and problem solve. Their entire life, they've been faced with it. And so I congratulate you on being that banner waver of that today for us, because you really have come all the way through. And I can only imagine all the different things that you've been able to see and embrace and be able to put your personal touch on. So thank you for bringing your heart into it. If you're going to share with us a couple of different tips that might help either the person seeking employment or the employer wanting to hire somebody and broaden their horizons, what tips would you share with us today, or what thoughts might you share with us today?
Yeah, and I think I'll focus my comments really on the employer side. And just as kind of a caveat to start with, there are people that will support neurodivergent individuals and coaching them and helping them understand, how they can put their best foot forward and to interview better and to do those sorts of things that can help them land positions and be successful in their organizations and move up. But I like to challenge the general premise of that, because this quote unquote putting your best foot forward is problematic, I think. And so from the employer side, we need to be thinking about what are we asking candidates to do as we're recruiting people to come work for our organizations. How are we casting a wide net? In what ways are we trying to create a really inclusive and diverse workforce? And how does that manifest itself in different aspects of the recruitment process, the hiring process? That includes perhaps interviews, testing work samples, those sorts of things, all the way on through the onboarding process and keeping people within the organization. And the reality is most of all of that is built for neurotypical people. And so we need to be rethinking, like, what do those processes even look like, and are they necessary? So for example, neurodivergent individuals, often struggle, not always, but often struggle in an interview setting. Well, guess what? Research shows interviews are about the worst possible way to assess someone's ability to perform well in a job anyways. So if I'm an employer and I'm always using the typical interview process to make my final selections and choose who's going to come work for me, I'm automatically going to be disadvantaging neurodivergent individuals who, disproportionately aren't going to perform as well in that kind of a setting. But the reality is, even for neurotypical people, it's not a very good indicator. It's not a really good way to better understand who's capable, who has the qualities and the capabilities to be successful in the job. So frankly, regardless of whether we're talking about neurotypical, neurodivergent, I would say interviewing is really not a great method for trying to sift through a pool of applicants. Like, we have to come up with better ways. And the reality is there are better ways. Organizations just often don't adopt them because they might be a little bit more time consuming. Maybe they're just not as used to them or comfortable with them. And so they end up falling back on the interview process. Most people don't interview particularly well. They don't know how to interview particularly well. That just magnifies the problem of the ineffectiveness of interviews. So that would be the first thing I would say, is look for ways that you can focus on past experience, past performance, opportunities to test skills directly, or give them an opportunity to provide work samples. That's going to be far more indicative of how someone's going to perform on the job than how they perform in an interview. And that'll make it a lot easier for you to attract and retain neurodivergent employees.
I really like how you said that, because I'm thinking about some of the different skill sets that I've seen some of our community members really excel at. I mean, significantly, but their social issues are going to stop them at the door. Either the anxiety of meeting with somebody new and trying their best to put on what they think is their best foot forward, as you said, or just the fact that they're going to have issues answering some of those questions in the most comprehensive way, when you and I both know, and many of our viewers know as well, that their skills are superior when they're sitting at a computer, right? And they can knock things out. Not only can they get things done really quickly and effectively, but because they aren't the most social person in the office, they might have a much higher productivity level too, because they're sitting at their desk and they're getting stuff knocked out instead of hanging out at the water cooler. So there's a lot of advantages, and I liked how you said that. So if that's your best tip, is to rethink what your interview process looks like, then let me ask you one other question. This is a little bit of a curveball. What would you say is your best word of encouragement to an employer to give them the motivation to think outside of the box?
Yeah, I would say talk to your people. Talk to those who either are on the spectrum, who identify as neurodivergent, and better understand their experience, and try to better understand the daily challenges that they face, once they're in the job, but also as they're looking for jobs. And if you don't have people who self-identify as neurodivergent on your team, ask your employees for those who have family members that do, because it's so prevalent in Utah. I believe the current statistic is 1 in 47 individuals are on the spectrum. That's a high percentage. I mean, that means we all are interfacing with neurodivergent individuals on a daily basis. And so just talk to your people, develop some empathy. That'll help you challenge some biases that you might have. It might help you think or at least start to think in more creative ways of how you can better support and meet the needs of all of your people on your team.
I love this. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing some enlightenment with all of us. I appreciate the insight, and I hope that anybody that wants to continue to learn more will jump over. They can find some of the different links on Explore the Spectrum so that they can continue to follow you and get in touch with you with any information they might be seeking. And to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us again as we continue to explore the possibilities.